tell us more about the burning of the arsenal at Harpers Ferry in 1861 April.
Well, the burning of the arsenal at Harpers Ferry, April 1861, is a transformative moment, not only in the history of Harpers Ferry, but in the Shenandoah Valley and in the Mid-Atlantic region. And it really did change the nature of Harpers Ferry and Jefferson County, setting the stage for what would become a bloody 4 years. This is what happens. Virginia, following Lincoln's call for 75,000 volunteers to squash the rebellion. This comes on April the 15th. Fort Sumter, of course, occurred on April the 12th, so the president responds. This means that Virginia had to dedicate troops to the fight. And they had to put troops in the fight against their fellow Southerners, their brothers and sisters in southern states. This was too much. This was too much for Virginia. And so on April the 17th, Virginia will decide to secede. The convention will vote 88 for, 55 against, but the majority will carry. As that's happening, Virginia militia will be called forth and sent to Harpers Ferry for the express purpose of capturing, not destroying, but capturing the United States Armory and arsenal at Harpers Ferry. Virginia wanted those weapons. There were thousands of weapons in storage at the arsenal. The estimate is up to 15,000 weapons stored there in the two arsenal buildings. These were the same arsenal buildings that John Brown had attempted to seize in October of 1859. And the armory, the factory where the weapons were manufactured, all that valuable machinery, all those machines that could produce the rifles and the barrels and the locks, the stocks, all of it there. Virginia wanted possession of that. They needed it now for their new country. And so Virginia militia, on the night of April the 18th, are en route to Harpers Ferry. They're coming from Charlestown principally from Charlestown. They're following the road from Charlestown to Halltown to Bolivar to Harpers Ferry. But the U.S. commander at Harpers Ferry, Lieutenant Roger Jones, knows they're coming. He's aware. He was there when the former superintendent of the Armory, Alfred M. Barber, announced to the citizens of Harpers Ferry that Virginia would seize the Armory. He and his men heard this. And so on the 18th, Jones had his men spread powder and powder kegs throughout the Armory and the Arsenal buildings in preparation for a possible Virginia advance. Well, about 9:30, 10 o'clock on the evening of the 18th of April, Jones is informed that the lead advance, the Virginia militia, have actually arrived on Bolivar Heights. They're now less than 2 miles away from downtown Harpers Ferry. And then he gives the orders to his men to strike those powder kegs, put the match to them, and blow up the Arsenal and Armory buildings. At about 10 p.m., Harpers Ferry citizens, asleep, suddenly are rocked out of their beds, just shocked by this massive explosion that occurs. In fact, it's reported that the explosion is so intense and the flames shoot up so high and so brightly that every tree and rock on Maryland and Loudoun Heights just lit up like the sun was shining on it. And with that, the arsenals were in full flame, totally engulfed, and would be destroyed in moments. The Armory buildings, however, a different story. The local town citizens, once they overcame their initial shock, realized that their jobs were going up in smoke. And now it wasn't a case of being in favor of the United States or in favor of the Confederate States. This was all about self-preservation. It all became, I must preserve my job. My job cannot burn. And so citizens, the armorers, rushed into the Armory, pulled out the fire engines from the fire engine house that John Brown had made so famous, and began to pump water into the flaming Armory buildings. So much so that most of those buildings would be saved, protected from the total destruction of the flames, and the Harpers Ferry machinery there would be used ultimately to help produce weapons for the Confederacy. That was the opening night of war at Harpers Ferry, the opening night of war in Virginia, and the opening night of 4 more years of war to come.